Miscellaneous minds, never explaining the minds. Devilish grin for my alias, aliens who respond. Peddling sin, thinking maybe when you get old you realize I'm not gonna fold or demise. I don't smoke crack, motherfucker, I sell it.
What is going on, everybody? This is the Miscellaneous Minds podcast. I'm your co-host, Puma El Gato, the cat that gives you your toxic behaviors back. And to my right over here is the main man, Houston Narrow, the man that makes the fat stacks. Together we form that dynamic duo that won't die. Deadly Diaz brothers and spicier content, your girls only fans. It is the last show of the year. We actually have a brand new setup, man. I'm all hyped for it, man. I even got some new drip, man. Look at this drip in gold, man. I got this for Christmas, man. All right. Now, brother, what did you want to talk about on our last show of the year?
You know, man, we're going to be discussing some of the behaviors that I've been noticing that for some reason, again, it goes right back to that, like you said, the hypocritical behavior that if a man were to do these things, they're terrible, they're garbage, they're human shit, all that stuff. But for somehow women are now celebrating these things. And it just, I don't know, it seems like a little bit of hypocrisy to me. So I figured we needed to touch on it. I know that you, when researching the topic, you also came up with a few things of your own. So we'll go ahead and touch up on those as well. So what brought this topic to my mind was the fact that I had seen that, I guess, for many, many years, I guess now Bella Poarch has been married for about 3 years. As a lot of you know, if anybody follows Bella Poarch, it's been real hush-hush. Nobody really knew that she was married. But she recently, I guess, filed for divorce. And the divorce isn't the bad thing. What we're here to talk about is the reaction people did once, you know, everyone found out that she was filing for divorce. Everyone was saying, yes, queen, you know, keep them a secret until you divorce them. Basically saying hide your spouse and all that kind of good stuff. I frequently see a lot of females on my Facebook talking about how it's bullshit if they, you know, if their other individual, their spouse, their whatever, hides them. So I think it's hypocritical for a lot of these people to be celebrating this, especially given, you know, to me, that seems like a little bit of mental abuse, you know, where you keep your significant other hidden from everyone. Now, don't get me wrong. I know it's a little bit different with Bella Poarch, but the fact that, you know, because she's famous, but the fact that non-famous people are celebrating and saying, hey, the fact that you kept them hidden, oh, that's queen behavior. Specifically, that's what was said. That's queen behavior. It's such a great thing. We all need to take it, you know, use this as an example and do it ourselves. That's bullshit. Because again, if it were a man that would be doing these things, we'd be looked at like trash, you know. And again, this just goes to show you that a lot of this, you know, feminist behavior, and you know what, I'm going to use a term that Piers Morgan said. It's really the radical feminist behavior. Because don't get me wrong, I have no problem with feminism. I know a few feminists they're great people. They have a great mind, but it's the radicals that really just take it way too far. And that's really my issue with it. Is that, again, switch the genders for 1 second and it'd be, you know, all out fucking war. What do you think about that, my man?
I agree with the same thing. I think it's one of those behaviors that, like, they'll say, like, oh, you'll, like, if men do it, it was like, oh, you're fucking garbage. But it's one of those things where it's behaviors where they deride men for doing it, but they also participate in the same thing. One of the things I actually wanted to bring up is the whole sex positivity thing. Now, again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with sex positivity. However, I have seen both ends of the spectrum as far as whether somebody engages in sex or whether somebody doesn't engage in sex. I've seen women do a lot of shaming for both ends. Let me give you an example. I had a coworker of mine, which I'm not going to lie, is a little bit more on the sex positive side. Nothing wrong with that. However, she wasn't exactly the most favorited coworker there. Not going to lie, I also did participate in it too. But some of the female coworkers that did not like her at all, did not like her work ethic, all this stuff. She wasn't pleasurable to be around. They openly called her a slut. Maybe not to her face, but behind her back. Now, how can you really claim to be sex positive if you're going to deride somebody for engaging in sexual behaviors very openly? And the other end of the spectrum that I want to bring up is specifically when it comes to shaming men. Now, women have been saying for years that they don't like when men shame them for either behavior, whether they're too open with their sexuality or if they're not open enough. They said they complained about being called sluts when they were being too open with their sexuality. They complained when they got called prudes for not engaging in sexual behavior at all. Now, what is the newest slang term for somebody that doesn't have sex and should be shamed for doing so? Incels. Incels, if you think about it, is actually like the biggest sex shaming thing you could possibly think of. And who is it directed towards? Mostly men.
So I wanted to jump in that point, my man, where you were talking about, you know, how people use the word incel as kind of an insult. It's funny because you were right, man. For a really long time, these people that were the women were, either called, if they were too conservative, they were called a prude, or if they were promiscuous, they were called a slut. So you would think that these people that, got these names thrown at them for such a long time, they would understand that, they wouldn't want to call someone who doesn't have that option as an insult. Again, the good thing about, my man here and myself, we he has his girl, I have my girl. So we can openly speak about these subjects because we don't have to be worried about being called incels. Because again, I don't give a fuck what the world says. I got my girl, I'm good, I'm straight. He's got his girl, he's good, he's straight. So, a woman throwing that term at us, incel, MGTOW, whatever the fuck, all that good stuff, it doesn't do anything to us. We're good, we're straight. We got our partners. So I think it's funny that the demographic that you would think would be most sensitive to being called those names based on what they are or are not doing wouldn't do it. But again, it's they're the ones that most use the term incel, and they're the ones that most insult the MGTOW movement. So great point on that, my man.
And I wanted to bring up something important, especially important on that insult thing that is especially more important, especially in these like times where we're talking about like mental health and all that. And one thing that was brought up to me was a dear friend of mine that was like, mildly questioned like why they haven't like gotten a girl and like quite a while whatever, and without the bombshell me that I didn't like completely flew past my head. He was like, I'm autistic, what do you expect? And I was like, holy shit, you're fucking autistic? And he was like, yeah bro, why do you think I never get any action? I was like, I never fucking knew that.
Is it who I'm thinking about?
Yeah, I think so.
Gotcha.
So he was like, yeah, that's why I'm not pulling any ladies. Like, it's hard for me to read social cues. So I think with the whole insult thing, it's like it's one of those things that's so extremely dismissive, especially coming from people that you would think would be all about sex positivity, whether or not somebody was open about it or didn't want to engage in that sort of thing. That's basically what sex positivity is. But you're not engaging in that if you're calling somebody an incel. So it's one of those things where you're shaming somebody for not being able to engage in that sort of thing when it's not their fault at all.
I agree, my man. Look, listen, the number one reason that we decided to bring this up is because I'm glad to see that a lot of content creators are coming out that are specifically saying, hey, look, they're pointing out the hypocrisy. And it's not even just men that are pointing out the hypocrisy. There's a lot of channels like Just Pearly Things or whatever the fuck. Yeah. I can't remember. There's a couple that I wanted to shout out because I watch their content and they're, I know Roma does a lot, but she's called the Pick Me. There's a lot of different individuals that are women that are coming out saying, hey, look, this is hypocritical, and we do need to call it out, even though we ourselves are women. So that's the number one reason that I decided to bring this topic up, because again, it's bullshit that you would call a man trash and all these ugly ass names for this fucking thing, hiding their spouse. And again, in the case of Bella Poarch, I'm not shaming her. I understand why she did it. She's famous. She wanted to protect the privacy of her spouse. I get that. It's the women that are celebrating and turning this into this is how we do it. This is queen behavior. You hide them until you're about to divorce them, all that type of stuff. That's the shitty behavior that y'all motherfuckers really need to look out for, because that's a red flag. We talking about red flags a lot, when it comes to men. That's a fucking red flag with anybody. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you have to post your significant other on social media, or you have to blast who you're dating. I'm not saying none of that stuff. But I'm saying when you're celebrating the fact that you've managed to hide them for an extended period of time, and then you only really put them out there when you're like, look, I got rid of the motherfucker, that's toxic as fuck. That's toxic as fuck, and it should be called out no matter who does it.
Another movement that I want to talk about too, and I feel like maybe this is me. Maybe I'm a bit crazy for thinking it so, but I truly believe that sex positivity, and by another extent, body positivity, are subsets of feminism. Now, it's going to sound crazy, but hear me out on this one. So in regards to celebrities, like larger celebrities more specifically, in terms of them losing weight, there's only one that I really see being derided for doing so. And it's all these women celebrities that decided, you know what, I don't want to be like this large anymore. I want to start losing weight. Adele, who's that Australian actor chick? She was in, I can't remember, the Pitch Perfect. I forgot the Australian actor's name, but she actually recently went on a diet, and she was also derided for going on a diet. Her, Adele, there was one more I can't for the life of me think of, but all three of them were basically insulted, like, oh, how dare you lose weight? We basically lost an icon.
from their own side, by the way, because it wasn't men that were belittling her. It's women that were coming out and saying, oh, how dare you lose all this weight? We lost an icon. Why are you trying to do it just to please men? She wasn't doing it to please men. She was doing it to fucking be healthy.
So, and on that note, for all the saying, oh, we're losing icons in the body positivity movement. Whenever I hear about male celebrities losing weight, most of it's good job. Like Jonah Hill, for example. Jonah Hill is a shining example of somebody that was losing weight. Another was John Goodman. He's been losing weight since like the 90s. Again, did not hear any attacks on his end when it came to losing weight. Nobody derided them for not being body positive anymore because they decided to take better care of their health. No, none of it. It was just all women, which I thought was particularly interesting considering, again, body positivity isn't shaming anybody whatsoever. But it seems to be the common practice for people that are looking to lose weight after basically saying, I don't want to be this big anymore.
Man, I think that's the hypocrisy of these movements and these people that will praise, this whole hiding your spouse and stuff like that. It's funny because you would think that, having your spouse hidden, for a lot of women, you would think seeing that, right? And saying to yourself, fuck, man, I've been in that position before where I've been hidden for whatever reason, whether you were a side chick, whether they were ashamed of you, whether they didn't want to push, whatever the reason was, you would think that you'd celebrate a scenario in which that's not the case, where you're like, oh, yeah, you fucking hid them for 3 or 4 years, whatever it was, because I'm pretty sure she got married in 2019. But no, it's weird that like these toxic behaviors are now not just the norm, man, but they're celebrated as more than just the norm. So that's my whole fucking rant on that thing. I think it's just bullshit. I think it's a lot of hypocrisy. I think the hypocrisy is coming from one side. Don't get me wrong. We as men, we have our faults. So we're not clear by any means. But I think it's bullshit that with these things that women have complained about for such a long time, they're now all of a sudden that women are doing it, they're celebrating it. Anything else you want to add to that, my man?
Nah, I think that's pretty much it for me, my man.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe, hate, whatever, all that bullshit. And with that being said,
until next time, get rest and stay blessed. We'll see you in the next year, everybody. Peace.